This is Jose Alagran Gutierrez with La Onda Verde's Radio del Barrio Aztlán, coming to you from the Deep Green Festival in Richmond, California. I have with me our guest. Why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Jose. Dan Rush. I'm the director of the National Medical Cannabis and Hemp Division of the United Food and Commercial Workers International Union.
And what's that union represent? What's the most?
Predominantly UFCW is known as the Grocery Workers Union. So we're your retail clerks and your butchers in the grocery stores, the people that stock the shelves. We're also the meat cutters in the big meat plants. We're the agriculture workers, the food processors, pharmacy workers, retail and also behind the counter. Textile workers, we make tennis shoes and clothing and shirts and
just whatever's left here in America. There's not much of it left, right?
Yeah, if it's we're the Commercial Production for Human Consumption Industries Union of North America.
Excellent. Well, now we got that out there. And you're here because of marijuana as a new industry to get into, or I mean, what does let me put it like this: what does the union doing in the medical marijuana industry?
The medical cannabis industry is a retail, agriculture, food processing, textiles, and pharmacy industry. And we are the Retail, Agriculture, Food Processing, Textiles, and Pharmacy Union. And so what happened was we didn't come to the industry happened to us. And it's our core industry, so it's not that we want to do it, it's our responsibility.
And do you see the unions being able to represent this industry that's under attack by the federal government? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is when you have the federal government at any moment can just close down your shop or close down the industry or the farm where your labor is, I mean, what does that do to the worker? Is it because they're trying to frighten them? I mean,
well, I think what's happening is. And so I've spent a lot of time looking at these issues, and I've got a legal department, a communications department, and folks backing me up that help me understand what's really going on. And essentially, we've got a Justice Department that has two policies, the Ogden Memo and then the Cole Memo. And both of those memos refer to essentially say holding patients harmless. Unfortunately, they don't talk about a commercialized industry except in the Cole Memo, where they talk about they don't want to see high revenues and they don't want to see tens of thousands of plants or millions and millions in revenue. Well, what that means to us is that the federal government has taken a position, the Justice Department has taken a position, but yet we see U.S. attorneys who are not enforcing Justice Department policy, but are rather enforcing U.S. Attorney district policy that they've dreamed up on their own. And these policies, they have stated over and over again, are their own policies, and that they are enforcing, they created these new policies based on an unnamed public who has written them letters. Well, frankly, lots of people write letters about gas stations and chemical manufacturing companies and strip clubs and various things, but we don't see them out shutting them down. But we do see sort of this on my own kind of, I'm going to run my own show from some U.S. attorneys in California and Colorado. So what that translates into for our workers is a vulnerability and an insecurity, not just a feeling of insecurity, but a real insecurity. And so what we are doing is helping these, we are representing workers that come to us and work for us for compliant companies. If you're out there and you work for a compliant cooperative or collective in California, or a corporation in Colorado that can be for-profit, and you're feeling vulnerable, and your company's compliant, then come to the union. And once we determine the compliance of your organization, we'll then start working to help you get established and secure. In the meantime, we have a three-dimensional approach to the process. We have a targeted congressional strategy that also includes an administrative strategy with the Justice Department in D.C., as well as various states. We have state legislative strategies, and then we have local on-the-ground ordinance and other, local political environment strategies. There's no magic wand to wave to save everybody, but we have a progressive plan that's growing and that's gaining ground. And, if we had all the members today that we had organized up until October of 2011, we'd have over a few thousand members. Unfortunately, in the division, we've lost a lot of members because of the U.S. Attorney's actions.
You're talking about cannabis.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. New cannabis employee members.
Right. And in USCW, we have a little over 1.3 million members in North America.
So now you mentioned that this is like rogue mentality by local attorneys, correct, or prosecutors.
So yeah, and the phrase rogue. I'm a diplomat. It's my job to represent you. So it doesn't do any good if I go in and kick the ankle of the person we're trying to negotiate for you with. I don't use the word rogue, but many people have used that word, and I could see how it applies in this scenario. But I do see sort of a self-serving approach in these U.S. attorneys who have developed their own policies that are regional policies within the district that they serve as a U.S. attorney. And they're not executing the U.S. Justice Department policy. It's a secondary policy that they devised in their districts where they are the U.S. attorneys in.
So are you saying mostly for political reasons to up their ante, maybe become a judge faster? I mean, what is?
I think it's varying degrees of fundamentalism, of a pattern of always trying to support law enforcement and the law enforcement industrial complex that gets money for conducting raids and investigations and going after criminal illegal marijuana, and so I think they have a propensity to try to support the leadership in the various agencies that go after money from Congress to go after illegal marijuana, but they've found an easy target in medical marijuana. And so if Congress gives me $3 million next year to go out and wipe out illegal marijuana growing in the fields and parks of Northern California, and I don't feel like driving out there, and it would cost me $1 million to send me and my folks out there, it only costs $200,000 to go raid a big giant dispensary and get a big yield.
You mentioned the whole legal, illegal. Under their eyes, everything's illegal. So that's where their mentality is coming from. And we had in Mendocino County, or there was in Mendocino County, the 99 plant permit where you could get buy tags from the county.
The 9.31.
9.3. You buy tags from the county, and you were able to go ahead and put your plants in. Now they've taken that out. They've threatened the sheriff, and so they've
suspended the ordinance.
They've terrorized the growers themselves by the raiding them. There was three the 943 holders of their 99 plant tags. They raided 3 of them last year, and so it really intimidated people. And that intimidation, because of the amount of marijuana that people were growing, is now how are they going to? If somebody's growing that much medicine, with asset forfeiture the way it is, where else do they have to go but to go into private lands or parks or national forests if they're still trying to get that same amount of marijuana they had grown with their 99 tags? I mean, isn't that just counterproductive and forcing people to be more criminal?
Not only that, they're forcing. So if you take a licensed 9.31 farm with a license strapped on the roof of the farm, which is how they did that, grew 99 plants. It's regulated. It's taxed. It was also called the zip tie program. The Sheriff Allman, Tom Allman, he's a great guy, good friend. Sheriff and Sheriff Randy, you could go down there. You could register your farm. You would buy a bag of a container of zip ties, 99 zip ties. You would pay, I don't know what it was,
$25 each.
$25 each for the zip ties. You would then go take your clones, or in the case of outdoor growing, you'd take your seedlings and plant them, and then at a certain point, the ones that lived to grow to be one of the 99, you would put your zip tie on there, and then that one would live, and you would destroy the rest. The Sheriff Randy would come down periodically and take samples of your plants so that they could have a DNA record of what you were growing. so that if your medicine was diverted to wherever and it popped up in somebody's investigation, they could come right back to you and say, this is your DNA, this is your stuff. Now, why are we going to take those kinds of rules and that kind of transparency that has real accountability and suspend it for a prosecution policy of 25 plants or less, where there's no regulation, there's no taxation, it's insane. It's crazy. If you take a dispensary that has a permit and it's been inspected by the fire department and only contains medicine that's been checked by a laboratory, and you want to shut that down and force people into a garage to purchase medicine in a garage or somebody's living room?
Or up the street here.
Or up the street?
Yeah, up the street right here.
Yeah. And that's another thing. The feds, they want to talk about cartels and, there's almost this racist component to the process.
The word marijuana itself is the racist connotations, and we had other guests that were really hitting the subject, and I might as well talk about that now. There was just recently a summit of the Americas in Colombia. Well, actually, it was Colombia.
Oh, okay.
Right in Bogota because of the whole scandal.
Okay,
so we all know. And one of the key components that came out of it was that 13 countries were wanting out of the drug war. That's 13 countries. I mean, we could see that Latin America is suffering more every day by these failed drug laws, and yet our Congress just keeps funneling and sending more money down to Colombia and to attack people in impoverished areas.
So, Jose, I don't know if you know this. I'm the executive officer of Instituto Laboral de la Raza, and we're a 501c3 in San Francisco, a workers and domestic center for monolingual, predominantly Latin American, Spanish-speaking families who are essentially refugees from their countries, who have come here to work. Unfortunately, many of them are undocumented, and I cannot. And I've been the executive secretary treasurer of Instituto since 1995. In San Francisco, they call me Santo Patricio in the mission. So I can't tell you how many people, how much the story has changed from 95 to 2005. The story from many of the immigrants used to be, well, there was a chemical spill on my family's farm that we lived at for 300 years, and now we can't run the farm and make a living, so we had to come here. Or there's some sort of political activity in the area that they lived in, and now they were forced politically to be refugees, and not just people and families, but entire communities and entire cities. And sometimes these armed militias would go in there and just run people out. And now the story, we were run out by the cartels.
Well, one of the things that we had John Gibler, and he wrote a book, To Die in Mexico, and one of the things that he pointed out, and that all the capos, all the leaders of all the cartels have direct ties to the federal government, either under state police or under federal police, and it's documented there. Now, there's not one that has not been from the top down. So in Mexico, the drug enforcement and the drug sellers are the same guys.
They're the government.
Exactly.
They're the 501c3s in the community, and they're bigger armies. They're better equipped. As long as we have a drug war that puts a value, that creates a value in the drugs, we're just carrying on corporate welfare for illegal drugs, and we're encouraging people to make billions.
And the violence that goes with it, just like Oakland, we can make a comparison with Oakland and with Mexico, where gun violence is the biggest problem in that city and in that country. And in Mexico, you're not even allowed to have guns. So who's got the guns outside of the military?
That's right. They took all the guns away there, and don't get me on that, because I'm a Democrat, but I'm a pro-gun Democrat, and all my members know that, and they love it, most of them. Until we take the profit out. Have you been along Highway 8 from San Diego to
all the way to Yuma and back?
Okay, so the local I was with before, Local 5, had offices in Yuma and along, through the south there. So I would drive along Highway 8, and on the U.S. side of the border, you see this ridiculous fence first. I mean, that any idiot could climb. if except for these people that sit out there in motorhomes on our side of the border, pointing guns at poor people that are trying to get across the country to make a living and save their lives.
Economic refugees.
Exactly, and political refugees, and people that are running because and I hate to say this in this context, but cartels have taken over their cities, their farms, their counties, and these drug organizations, and they're running people off of their land and out of their cities. And so you see this big giant fence, and on our side, every 5 miles you see you see these military installations with all these troops with all those ninja machine guns, and there's a armored troop
Same guys
transport.
we saw in Oakland.
Exactly, they just brought them in from Highway 8, and then across the border, what do you see? Nobody's hiding over there. Giant semi trucks moving around. Helicopters flying around carrying crates of whatever it is they use to transport or manufacture or market. 32,000 people have been killed along the border in Mexicali, in the Salinas Desert along Highway 2, in Tijuana and Ensenada. All of those places, 32,000 people in 2 years, in 48 months, have been murdered down there.
I lived in San Diego, so I know the area real well. I lived in San Diego, and I was taking classes at the university there, and we did border study classes where we would study what was happening, economics. And the thing that I still remember, and this was 20 years ago, but that the border itself, more money was coming into the United States from Mexico than actually money from the United States into Mexico, because of the commerce. Because you mentioned the trucks. Now, ever since NAFTA, those trucks are running. So that's where I believe the majority of the drugs that are coming into the country are coming into those trucks. Because
they come in those trucks, and brother, they have caves that they drive into, and they have armies of people constantly digging new ways out. So, and we have a border patrol that sits around in a building with a tank because it looks scary.
Oh, and then you see,
right?
Yeah.
And when I was talking about trucks across the border, I'm talking about those are the people moving the illegal
everything,
illegal drugs and everything that they can't bring through the border, but they're not hiding. They're driving, right in, and there's an army of people digging a new extension of the hole so that it can go out this one or go out that one, and nobody's hiding.
Well, every fence is porous. Every fence is porous. And it's funny, guys. I was filming on the border. I want to say maybe 15 years ago, and as I'm filming the Marines or the National Guard as they're welding these gigantic pieces of steel, and I'm filming, and all of a sudden I turn around and somebody pops out like a mold. And he just pops out.
Yeah.
The guy jumps up, looks at me, pulls his pants down, gives me a BA, and jumps back down in the hole and takes off. And to me, that was just the farce of what they were doing. Here we have millions of dollars spent on building a fence that's porous. It's like using a funnel where you're not capturing anything. You're using a funnel to hold water, but it's not. It's just dripping right out.
It's an emblem. It's a symbol of a scoundrelous. It's a scoundrelous symbol of a poor act of what some people would consider to be patriotism, of somehow keeping people that are fleeing for their lives. That person that popped through the ground, there were 300 people below him that helped dig that hole to the ground.
Oh no, this was actually just like they had just dug like right underneath the fence. That's what it was.
Okay,
It was 20 years ago. So now I'm pretty sure that they've put down a lot more cement, and the fence has gotten a lot bigger, and everything is getting more militarized. The last time I was down by the border, I was at a funeral like 2 months ago. Let's say 7 weeks, and to look across the border and see all that money that's being spent, that not just the fence but the lights, the little huts that you mentioned for the border patrol officers. That now you got them on horseback, you got them on motorcycles, you got them on quads, you got them on helicopters, you got them in 4-wheel drives. I mean, and they're just zooming around like they're playing in the sand.
They're going after refugees. They're not going after smugglers. They're not going after people that have a truckload of cocaine coming in from further south, and they don't carry cannabis across the border anymore. You grow better cannabis here. So when these U.S.